Get started. I want to welcome everybody tonight. So if you don't mind standing, we're going to do the prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance of the flag.
Heavenly Father, as always, we appreciate this day that you've given us. We appreciate your time and your presence being here with us today. Father, guide us as this Talbot County Council. May our decisions be rooted in nothing but you. Please bless our county. Please bless our towns, our state, our country, and our world. We thank you for your provision. We thank you for your love, your grace, and your mercy. In Jesus' most precious and holy name we pray. Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. All right. First on the agenda, we've got an agenda before us. Is there any additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda, Council? Okay. Hearing none, the chair moves that the agenda be accepted as unanimous consent. Next is the minutes of May 6th. We've had a chance to take a look at the minutes. Is there any additions, deletions, or corrections to the minutes, Council? Okay, hearing none, that the minutes be moved, be accepted as unanimous consent. Next is the disbursements of June 3rd and June 10th. We've had a chance to take a look at them. Is there any additions, deletions, or corrections to the disbursements? Okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, hearing none, the chair moves that the disbursements be accepted as unanimous consent. All right, okay, first on the agenda is the school board. The school board want to come on up, and we're going to do some transfers. Sarah, welcome.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yes.
So we come before you with a request for some budget transfers. Are there slides that go with this?
Okay, Sarah, could you kind of announce who you are?
Of course.
Yep.
My name is Sarah Jones. I'm the CFO for Talbot County Public Schools.
Okay.
And I'm Dr. Sharon Pepukayi,
Dr. Sharon Pepukayi, Superintendent of Talbot County Public Schools.
There you go. Thank you.
You can just
The mouse.
Oh, okay. Well, okay, there we go. Okay, so last week we sent over a request to the council. Typically at this time of year, as we're working through our next year's budget, and we're looking for ways in which we can make that balance, we identify some things we would like to get prepaid with current year funds. And in order to do that, we would need to make some shifts in our FY25 budget. Specifically, we had some savings in 3 categories we'd like to use. The largest of those savings is in instructional salaries, which we'll touch on in a minute. We also had about $40,000 in materials of instruction, so a small percentage of that budget, and about $500,000 from special education, as well as $100,000 from pupil personnel services and $50,000 for transportation. So we're kind of cobbling together savings from a few different departments to try and help us meet some needs, primarily for FY26, which we'll go into in a minute. So these are the requested pluses and minuses by category. They net to 0, so we're not asking for any additional spending. We just are asking to shuffle our current budget. So the savings in instructional salaries came from vacancies. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Basically, our savings from vacancies this year are less than they've been in prior years, and that was both from some conservative budgeting and also some tactics or some strategies we've been using to try and retain and recruit more into our school system.
Yeah, and I just want to speak to that, and I know some of you have been a part of our strategic plan, which strategy number 2 is all about retaining and recruiting staff here at TCPS. what we've done, we've hosted our own career fair, which is the first time that we've done that. We usually go to others, which we still do, but we said we wanted to try to host our own. We also attend UMES, University of Maryland Eastern Shore, Towson, Salisbury, Middletown, Chesapeake College, and Bowie. We've had over 50 candidates from these visits. One thing, and we have partnered with the Greens Ventures LLC, which is preferred housing. What we're finding is, and we're still working on the challenge of the housing aspects when we're recruiting from different states, different areas, having our new teachers being able to afford the housing. So that's a challenge that we're still getting ideas from different people. We are still working with our Grow Your Own program. We do our welcome cards for our new hires. We've contacted other realtors, and we have been reaching out to get ideas on how we can partner to work with the housing aspect of that. We've presented at the new teachers meetings, and we post on social media outlets. So this is, it was important enough for us to make this a priority in our strategic plan, and we'll start to keep the metrics once we close up our strategic plan and start measuring what we're seeing so we could tackle the challenges that we're hearing that comes along with that.
And another thing we've been continuing is those new teacher mentors that you funded for us for this year or last year, this year. Those have been really instrumental in helping us keep some of our newer teachers. And they mentioned that as a big, the support they get as being a big reason they're staying in Talbot County. So I guess we say all that to say we hope for that number to be lower next year. And the other thing we did for the FY26 budget to hope ensure that that number is lower, the savings from salaries, is we did factor in about a $800,000 now savings from vacancies. So in other words, we've sort of deflated what we estimate our salary budget to be in recognition that there will be some vacancies. So just wanted to kind of put that out there because that is a bigger number. In terms of materials of instruction, we had some savings. Mainly, we had only about a year's worth of information when we budgeted for dual enrollment textbooks for this current year, and so our experience now tells us that we don't need that much, and that's reflected in our FY26 budget as well, that not as high a number for those dual enrollment textbooks. We have some needs and other instructional costs, and that is to buy devices for our students for next year and to pay for some software cost in that category. Then in special education, we had about $500,000 worth of savings, and that is strictly from, I've come before the council before and talked about non-public tuition. So that's where we send students whose needs we can't meet in Talbot County schools to specialized special education schools. And that's a hard number to predict. And so it turned out that this year just the makeup of the number of students and the needs of those students was less than we had budgeted for, so we had some savings there. Student services, another hard number to predict. We are billed every year for what's called kinship care. So when we have students that are technically Talbot County residents that go to live with a family member in another jurisdiction, we are responsible to pay for their education cost. Really hard to know what that number is going to be every year. We had some savings there, came in under budget. And finally, in transportation, we had some savings, and that had to do with dual enrollment transportation. We had, again, budgeted for that. Didn't have a lot of experience when we set the budget for 25, found out we just didn't need that money. Like, we weren't making the extra bus runs. So we've cut that out, and we've cut it out of our FY26 budget as well. Under the three main areas we need some additional funding is under operation of plant, and the majority of that is to prepay FY26 costs, so we'd like to be able to do that in the next few weeks. We also, and that's really what all that is, supplies, some contracted services, some repairs, and things like that. In maintenance of plant, we need $290,000. A little bit of that is some overages that we expect will hit the books by the end of the year. We had a big expensive boiler repair at Easton High School and a few other unexpected projects. We have some HVAC repairs, replacements that we would like to do, and so we would like to contract for that before the end of the year, and then also prepay for some things before the end of this year for next year. And then finally, in fixed charges, we would like to get a jump start on our FY26 fixed charges costs. So we'd like to get some additional budget in that category. Does anyone have any questions on this slide before I move on? Okay. So this is really projecting, let me see, I don't have a mouse. This is where we currently are with all of those projected costs included in this column. So they haven't all been incurred, but if we were to incur all of what we'd like to do, it would leave us with these gaps where we're seeing the negatives, these 4 categories, and that's why we're asking for the budget transfers. And this is what the transfers, if we had the transfers, we would end up, this is where we would end up. We would end up, you know, to the positive in all of our categories. You'll notice we are under budget and projecting to be under budget in revenue for the year by about $440,000. That also ties back to that non-public tuition. We put our students in special education schools. We get a portion of that back as reimbursement from the state. So since we didn't expend all the money, we won't get the reimbursement back. So overall, we expect to come in with about $180,000 savings for the year, which is like 0.02% of our budget or something like that. So it's pretty close to our budget. So that is my summary.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, any discussion,
I
council?
guess I could go back.
Any discussion? Okay. Mr. Lesher?
You ready for motion?
Yep.
Without any discussion here, I think that's all pretty clear. And thank you for that. And thank you also for getting this squared away at this time of year. It's nice to be able to do this before we're up against the June 30th deadline, or in some years we've even done some of these things after the fact. I really appreciate that that you've got everything lined up and with your projections in place for this. So with that, I will move approval of the categorical budget transfers requested by Talbot County Public Schools.
Okay, is there a second?
I will go ahead and second.
Okay, we got a motion seconded to approve the transfers. Madam Secretary, could you call the vote?
Mr. Callahan?
Aye.
Mr. Stepp?
Aye.
Mr. Lesher?
Aye.
Ms. Milky?
Aye.
Ms. Haight? Aye.
Okay,
Thank
Thank
you
you,
so
guys.
much.
Thank you.
okay, good job, thank you. Okay, next on the agenda, Madam Secretary, is introduction of administrative resolution. Go ahead and read that, please.
Administrative resolution regarding the diversity, equity, and inclusion statement adopted by the County Council of Talbot County, Maryland on September 22nd, 2020, and diversity training for employees of Talbot County, Maryland. Whereas on June 23rd, 2020, the County Council of Talbot County, Maryland, the County Council, adopted an administrative resolution requiring the county manager to provide an annual report describing diversity training initiatives, diversity training, for employees of Talbot County, Maryland, the county, in the prior fiscal year, and identifying new opportunities for diversity training in the following fiscal year, the June 23rd administrative resolution. And whereas on July 14th, 2020, the County Council adopted an administrative resolution requiring the development of a diversity statement for the county applicable to the county government, the July 14th administrative resolution. And whereas, in accordance with the July 14th administrative resolution, on September 22nd, 2020, the County Council adopted by motion a diversity, equity, and inclusion statement, the objective of which is stated therein as follows. By adopting this diversity, equity, and inclusion statement, the county strives to foster an environment that welcomes and accepts diversity within county government. The county is committed to, 1, maintaining an inclusive, productive, supportive, open, innovative, and equitable workplace environment in which every individual is valued for his or her unique characteristics. 2, fostering respect, understanding, and acceptance of differences. And 3, enabling employees to reach their full potential, thus enhancing the relationships among ourselves and optimizing the quality of services to our residents and our fellow employees, the DEI statement. And whereas, following the County Council's adoption of the June 23rd administrative resolution, the county manager has provided annual reports to the County Council regarding diversity training. And whereas, on March 26, 2024, the County Council adopted an administrative resolution adopting the 2024 Employee Handbook for Talbot County, Maryland, the Employee Handbook, which contains provisions setting forth the county's commitments to Equal Employment Opportunity, EEO, and Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA, and zero tolerance for harassment of any kind whatsoever, including workplace harassment, sexual harassment, and other types of workplace harassment, such as bullying, intimidation, threats, and violence. And whereas, in accordance with the foregoing policies and requirements of applicable law, including but not limited to the Equal Protection Clause of the United States Constitution, the county is a merit-based employer where employees and prospective employees enjoy equal opportunity in all employment decisions without regard to race, creed, sex, national origin, disability, or other protected characteristics, and the county does not discriminate based on such protected characteristics. And whereas it is the intent and desire of the county council and county administration that every county employee and prospective employee enjoys a welcoming workplace where all individuals are treated with dignity and respect. And whereas the county relies heavily on financial assistance from the federal government in various projects, including but not limited to the pending airfield modernization program for the Easton Airport, the program, and the county would not be able to fund such projects without such assistance. And whereas on April 24th, 2025, the United States Secretary of Transportation sent a letter to all recipients of U.S. Department of Transportation DOT funding, including the county, stating in pertinent part that any policy, program, or activity that is premised on a prohibited classification, including discriminatory policies or practices designed to achieve diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI goals, presumptively violates federal law, and that recipients of DOT financial assistance must ensure that the personnel practices, including hiring, promotions, and terminations within their organizations, are merit-based and do not discriminate based on prohibited categories. And whereas the county council does not wish to jeopardize the county's ability to receive critical federal funding, including DOT funding for the program. And whereas the county employee sets forth, the employee handbook sets forth the intent and desire of the county council and county administration that every county employee and prospective employee enjoys a welcoming workplace where all individuals are treated with dignity and respect, consistent with applicable laws and regulations, and the county's commitments to EEO, ADA, and zero tolerance for harassment of any kind whatsoever. And whereas, notwithstanding the June 23rd administrative resolution, the county administration provides training to all employees regarding compliance with all applicable laws and regulations consistent with the county's commitments to EEO, ADA, and zero tolerance for harassment of any kind whatsoever. And whereas, in consideration of the foregoing, the county council deems it appropriate to adopt this administrative resolution such that the June 23rd administrative resolution, the July 14th administrative resolution, and the DEI statement are of no further force and effect. Now therefore be it resolved by the County Council of Talbot County that 1, the foregoing recitals are not merely prefatory, but are a substantive part of this administrative resolution. Effective immediately, the June 23rd administrative resolution, the July 14th administrative resolution, and the DEI statement are of no further force and effect. 3, effective immediately, the county manager shall not be required to provide an annual report to the county council describing diversity training initiatives for county employees, but shall continue to inform the county council regarding training afforded to county employees regarding compliance with all applicable laws and regulations. 4, nothing in this administrative resolution shall be construed as a repudiation of the intent and desire of the county council and county administration that every county employee and prospective employee enjoys a welcoming workplace where all individuals are treated with dignity and respect without regard to race, creed, sex, national origin, disability, or other protected characteristics, or as a prohibition or limitation on the county's administration's authority to provide training to all county employees regarding compliance with all applicable laws and regulations. Be it further resolved that this administrative resolution shall take effect immediately upon adoption. introduced by the County Council of Talbot County, Maryland, at a regular meeting on June 10th, 2025, at which meeting copies were available to the public for inspection. Adopted by the County Council of Talbot County, Maryland, at a regular meeting on June 10th, 2025, at which meeting copies were available to the public for inspection. Given under our hands in the Great Seal of Talbot County this 10th day of June in the year of our Lord, 2025.
Good job, Madam Secretary. That was good. That was good. All right. Okay. Council discussion? Mr. Stepp?
Yeah, I've got something
Yep.
I'd like to read out.
Yep.
So, thank you, Mr. President.
Yep.
I'll try to keep this brief, but in the spirit of transparency, I need to say a few words here. As many of you know, I've led the charge on sponsoring this fiscally responsible legislation several months ago, and also again here today. I forewarned this council and our residents about these ramifications months ago, but council fell short on repealing these two resolutions, leaving Talbot County in a very risky and vulnerable position. Some recent history. The letter Talbot County received from the Department of Transportation dated April 24th, 2025 is indeed a public letter and can easily be found online by anyone wishing to read it by Googling Department of Transportation follow the law letter. It will indeed be the first thing that pops up. Containing that 4-page letter is verbiage that clearly defines the Constitution, law, and binding Supreme Court precedents set around that law, most of which I've already clearly articulated in my past comments when I presented to this council and our residents months ago. We now find ourselves in a position today where Talbot County has been called to the carpet. $46.8 million worth of federally funded airport modernization dollars are at imminent risk, not only in the form of current and future funding, but also in the form of clawbacks funds that have been already spent. If we do not repeal these two 2020 resolutions by passing today's resolution, our airport cannot pursue their next round of funding, as doing so would only exacerbate the extreme financial, legal, and economic risk that Talbot County is already in. If I'm being completely honest, I have to share that this is very frustrating that we even need to be discussing this again here today. It should have been dealt with months ago. This matter has been highly politicized and turned into something that it simply is not. To be clear yet again, today's action is fiscal in nature, and such legislation shouldn't be met with politicization, hate, judgment, and mistreatment that I know I personally endured. First go around from members of our community, and as of today, it's bubbling up yet again from some members in our community who either don't understand what this is or simply don't care about the financial well-being of others in the same community. The irony behind those who can treat others like that and then in the same breath claim to support diversity, equity, and inclusion is beyond belief. Moving forward, it's time we all face reality and begin to act and operate within the law. Every Talbot County citizen has their rights and freedoms under actual law. To Talbot County, resolutions do not increase your rights and freedoms under the law. They only hurt your wallets. It's time that we keep this fiscal, take action, act civil, and just treat others respectfully. Folks, disagreement and disrespect are two different things. Don't conflate the two. In closing, I'd like to end by thanking Councilman Lesher for working through the final draft of this resolution with me, and I urge all of council to join me in a yes vote today to repeal these two resolutions so we can move on to other pressing county matters on behalf of our citizens. Back to you, Mr. President.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Stepp. Mr. Lesher?
Well, this is a difficult issue for me, and I am going to disappoint some and surprise others in this room and outside. The challenge here is that we have a vindictive and maleficent federal administration that is seeking to root out DEI policies on the erroneous presumption that they are discriminatory in a reverse sense. Of course, the county has no such discriminatory policy, and we fully comply with all federal and state civil rights. The risk is that some incompetent political appointee will read only the title of our statement, misconstrue it as an illegal policy, and deny a federal grant on that basis. In an event like that, even if we win on appeal, it could leave us in a state of construction limbo for an unacceptably long time. We simply need to ensure that we are using none of the language that could trigger some snowflake in Washington. Is this self-censorship? Yes. Is it distasteful? Yes. But does it change one letter of county employment policy? Absolutely not. With or without this statement, we will continue to seek to attract and retain a diverse workforce, treat them equitably in hiring, promotion, training, and all other employment matters, and ensure that they continue to feel welcome, respected, and included. I would like to request from the dais that staff draft a replacement welcoming statement for the employee handbook that will set the tone for an expectation of respect and fairness in all of our employment practices.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lesher. Any other discussion? Yeah.
I'd like to concur with Councilman Lesher. I never read these two prior resolutions as being within the meaning of what everybody considers to be the DEI policy. I think our government always had been a merit-based operation. My hesitation is that by enacting this, are we admitting that that's what it said? Because I would object to that, but taking the bigger picture, I have to concur with Mr. Lesher.
Okay. Yep. Okay.
So I just have a question for Mr. Thomas at this time. So, and I want to thank Ms. Wilcoxon at the last meeting. She asked if we had a opinion letter, and she was 100% on target with that. So thank you for that. We do now have an opinion letter. My question is, in the letter, you reference that the U.S. Department of Transportation FY 2025 Airport Infrastructure Grant Agreement requires the applicant to certify that it does not operate any programs promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, and you go on with that. So in our packet, as you reference this in your opinion letter, I don't have a copy of that grant agreement. So do we have something that specifies that this grant agreement, that there is a box that has to be checked for DEI, is my question.
Yes, that is in the application that Mr. Risher provided. That was actually what, that and the letter from the Secretary of Transportation is what prompted this discussion.
So I don't have that. Did any other council member get a copy of that grant agreement? Because I didn't have that in my packet. I had the letter, but I do not have any grant agreement as referenced in your opinion letter.
So we can get that for council. It's in the grant application, the details of the grant application with the airport. We can get that for you.
Okay, I just wanted to know where that was because I didn't see a copy of it. And then also, you stated in your opinion letter that you do not believe the DEI statement is discriminatory, nor do you believe that the U.S. Supreme Court opinion basically has merit in that. Is that still your opinion and what you believe as regards to this?
I do not believe that the statement is discriminatory, and I do not believe that the Supreme Court opinion referenced in the Secretary of Transportation's letter applies to that statement because, as Ms. Milkey just said, the county is and has been a merit-based employer, and that's nothing in that statement has anything to do with that. But nonetheless, it's called what it's called, and I'll leave it at that.
And then last question, thank you for that. Does the airport specifically have any programs that promote DEI, or are we just focusing on the DEI statement?
The airport does not. It applies. It's part of the county's rules and regulations.
Okay. But the airport specifically, Mr. Stamp, does not have DEI policies or initiatives or programs?
It does not.
Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. President.
Okay. All right. Well, I really appreciate Dave and Pete working on. You've worked several weeks on trying to get this to the finish line, and you've done a great job trying to get there. I know it's been tough on council. I know we all have our own beliefs, one way or the other, with the DEI stuff. But at this time, I think we've made the right decision and the right statement. So, being that said, Madam Secretary, could you call the vote?
This hasn't been introduced.
Oh, it hadn't been introduced. Okay. We're going to go ahead and introduce it. Show of hands.
Just
Okay.
introduced by Callahan, Stepp, Lesher, and Milky.
Mm-hmm. Call the vote.
Mr. Callahan?
Aye.
Mr. Stepp?
Aye.
Mr. Lesher?
Aye.
Ms. Milky?
Aye.
Ms. Hayes?
Nay.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Secretary. Next on the agenda is introduction of numbered resolutions.
A resolution to amend the Talbot County Comprehensive Water and Sewer Plan to reclassify and remap certain real property located on KEMP Road, Easton, Maryland, shown on tax map 24 as parcel 41, from unprogrammed to S1, immediate priority status, pursuant to an application filed by Back 9 LLC.
Okay. Ray, you want to come on up?
Thank you. Ray Clark, County Engineer.
Mhm.
Council, just to let you know, this is an application that's coming before you. When we were doing the design of Resolution 235, we attempted to go up on the, let's say, the east side of Kemp Road, and unfortunately, we could not secure an easement from that property owner, so we ended up going up on the west side of Kemp Road to get to extend sewer down to 5 lots that are on the water. So one of the things we advised the property owner of is that we would, if they chose to come in to the Compton Sewer Plan, we would support them in their application. At that point in time, all this is is a resolution to amend the Compton Sewer Plan. It is only for one equivalent dwelling unit. They are what we would call WRC, which you would be provided 3 upfront lots. However, we would not be providing them those 3 upfront lots. It would be for one equivalent dwelling unit.
Okay. Any questions? Okay.
Mr. Clark, this is an unimproved lot
It is.
and a fairly large one at that. Currently, its use is in agriculture.
It is in agriculture, and if I'm not mistaken, the area in question, I believe, is only 16.993 acres. The total lot size, if I'm not mistaken, is 43.58 acres. So the area that's coming in is only the 16 acres, or a little over 16 acres.
And so there's no septic on this
There
system,
is nothing. So anything
failing or otherwise?
No, there is nothing.
How many large unimproved parcels of farmland are eligible under our current comprehensive water and sewer plan for sewer service?
I would have to check that out. I would say, we do have parcels that are, let's say greater than 10 to 12 acres, or let's say even up to 15 acres, but I have to get that information for you.
So does anybody who has a lot of any size in any zone whatsoever can request for immediate sewer priority?
Well, I would say under Resolution 250, we did bring in some large parcels for Resolution 250 when we were looking at trying to create specific areas for sewer service, so I can probably get you that information. I think this is one of those where, when the applicant, or when we were looking to try and get sewer to that property owner, we were trying to give an easement to go ahead and extend the force main up Kemp Road to get to those properties. So that was the reason we were trying to work with that property owner to support them in an application.
Interesting. I'll look forward to the conversation of the Public Works Advisory Board and the
And the council, if I mean,
Planning
will say,
Commission.
before I was here, the county did this on other parcels as well. Basically, we had to put a pump station in Royal Oak, and there was a sewer granted to a property owner for basically getting an easement to put that pump station on their property. So, I mean, it has been done in the past.
but in a village zone.
It was just outside, yes.
many acres
is the Okay.
The total acreage is 43 acres, 43.58 acres is the total. The area that we have in the sewer service area is 16 acres, 16.993 acres.
And the application states that it's for only one EDU?
That is right, only one EDU.
But once it's listed S1, you can increase that without council review. Right, that's correct.
I would say, council, because this is the county, we would not allow that to happen, because this is a resolution identifying one EDU. We would basically come back to the county council if they were to increase that to any additional EDUs for your all's review.
That would be required under code to gain an additional EDU?
Yes, because this would be specific, this resolution is specific to that parcel and to that one EDU. So for the county, we would bring that, if they were to try and say we wanted an additional 2 lots or 2 EDUs, we would say that this resolution did not provide you that, it only provided one, you have to amend that. We did that on Rest Circle, where we had I think it was 2 lots were provided to McMiles LLC, and ultimately that we provided them with 2 EDUs. They came back, and I think it had requested an additional 3 to 4 EDUs, and we required that resolution be amended to include those 4 additional 3 to 4 EDUs.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is for introduction.
This is for introduction.
Yep, raise of hands.
Introduced by Callahan and Stepp
Mm-hmm.
and Milky.
Keisha, did you raise your hand?
No,
Okay,
I didn't.
okay.
This will be known as resolution number 378, and the public hearing will be held on Tuesday, July 8th at 5:30 p.m.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Next.
A resolution to amend the Talbot County Comprehensive Water and Sewer Plan to reclassify and remap certain real property located at 8294 Bosman Nevitt Road, St. Michaels, Maryland, shown on tax map 31, grid 10 as parcel 333, lot 1, from unprogrammed to S1, immediate priority status, pursuant to an application filed by Barbara Portnoy Levin Spector.
Okay. Go
Ken
ahead.
Ray,
Go-
Clark County
yep.
Engineer, we received the application from this property owner. Ultimately, they have an improved lot. It is 4.378 acres. At this point, we do have sewer in that area. As you come down, I think it's Bosman Nevitt Road, so it would be providing a connection point as on our force main that sits between those 2 green areas. So ultimately, it is feasible for them to connect. I would also point out that the zoning in that area is RC. It's a 1/20 zoning. So ultimately, we have Brennan here as well, but there is no ability for them to subdivide.
Okay. Any questions from council at this time? Nope. Okay. Let's show of hands.
Introduced by council.
This will be known as resolution number 379. The public hearing will be on Tuesday, July 8th at 5:30 p.m. A resolution to amend the Talbot County Comprehensive Water and Sewer Plan to reclassify and remap certain real property located at 7874 Bosman Nevitt Road, Bosman, Maryland, shown on tax map 31 as parcel 21, from unprogrammed to S1, immediate priority status, pursuant to an application filed by Daniel Ball.
Okay.
Okay, again, Ray Clark, County Engineer. We did receive an application from this property owner. They are on the edge of the resolution 250 sewer service area along Bosman Nevitt Road. It is, this lot is improved, and it is consisting of 4.087 acres, and it too is also RC, zoned RC, and so they would not have any subdivision potential.
Okay. Any questions on this, council, on this resolution? Okay, let's show of hands.
Introduced by council.
This will be known as resolution number 380.
Mhm.
Public hearing will be on Tuesday, July 8th at 5:30 PM. Resolution to amend the Talbot County Comprehensive Water and Sewer Plan to reclassify and remap certain real property located at 7930 Church Neck Road, St. Michaels, Maryland, shown on tax map 32, grid 13 as parcel 154, lot B, from unprogrammed to S1 immediate priority status pursuant to an application filed by Jill and John Olmsted.
Okay.
Again, council, we received the application. This actually was a septic system that was, I guess, reviewed by Accurate Environmental and does have issues. This is also an approved lot of roughly 4 acres. And again, this is also an RC, a resource conservation area, which is 1/20 zoning. So,
Okay. Questions?
I'm curious that this piece of legislation didn't have an attached map. There's a report that shows sort of a plat in it, but it doesn't have the kind of map that shows existing and if changed.
we show something here, I think at the back end.
It does? Why am I missing that in here?
Exhibit A, it's page 4 of 28.
Page 4. I'm sorry, there it is.
Okay.
I stand corrected.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? Okay, show of hands. Okay.
So introduced by council.
This will be known as resolution 381. The public hearing will be on Tuesday, July 8th at 5:30 PM. A resolution to amend the Talbot County Comprehensive Water and Sewer Plan to reclassify and remap certain real property located at 6163 Long Point Road, Nevitt, Maryland, shown on tax map 39 as parcel 66, lot 17, from unprogrammed to S1 immediate priority status pursuant to an application filed by William and Karen King.
Again, council, we did receive an application for this. This lot consists of 7.646 acres. It is also an improved lot. It's also in the RC zoning. At this point in time, we do not show or have any reports indicating that the septic system's failure. We will go over and work with all of these with it Brennan Green to secure their support on these parcels. Basically noting that these are high ground, the groundwater is high with poor draining soils, and we have in the past looked at this, and this is one of those lots as well as some of the others we just talked about, where the Public Works Advisory Board was looking at those parcels that would kind of be targeted to come into the sewer service area. So we did do that, and that's something we are working with MDE and the Maryland Department of Planning on, and this was one of the lots as well as the others we talked about.
Okay. Any discussion on this one? Okay. Show of hands.
Introduced by council.
This will be known as resolution number 382. The public hearing will be on Tuesday, July 8th at 5:30 PM.
Okay. All right, that sounds good. All right,
Marathon time.
here it comes.
Marathon time.
Okay. Lynn, you ready for this?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Keisha, you ready? You ready?
Marathon time.
Okay. All right, just to let everybody know, we've got to go over a bunch of bills, so it's going to be, so I'm going to, Martha's going to take the lead on this, so.
She got 30 seconds.
She got good help. She got
Speed
good-
read,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Caitlin, keep her straight, okay? Okay, next is the introduction of legislation. We got a lot of bills to go through, so,
You want me to read the title?
Yes.
The title first?
yes, please.
A bill to amend bill numbers 1549, 1479, and 1244 for the purpose of amending the appropriation for the replacement and improvement of roofs of buildings and structures owned by Talbot County.
Okay.
Okay, before we go over our list of bills, I want to do a quick summary of what this process is for citizens that are listening,
Okay.
so they can understand what the capital enabling legislation is. I promise it's quick. On May 27, 2025, Council passed Bill 1585, an act to establish the 2025-2026 annual budget and appropriation ordinance. Per sections 603 and 607 of the Talbot County Charter, the budget consists of the current expense budget, the capital budget, and the capital program, which includes an itemized list of capital projects which an agency proposes to undertake in the ensuing fiscal year. While the budget and funding sources of these projects were reviewed during our budget work sessions with council, and they were approved by council in the budget ordinance bill number 1585, the county also creates capital enabling legislation for each capital improvement project per section 612 of the charter, and each bill is subject to the referendum provisions of section 217 of the charter. Budget oversight of these programs is further monitored through the county's procurement policy. Now, in reference to the bill that our secretary just read, for the replacement and improvement of roofs of buildings and structures owned by Talbot County. This amends prior legislation by $300,000. It expands language of legislation to include work on roofs for all county-owned facilities. Additional funds, along with savings from completed work, roof work at the courthouse, will allow for the replacement of the roof on the main area of the county courthouse, state's attorney's building, roads department, large equipment shed, and the tower building adjacent to the operations center at 605 Port Street.
Okay. Any discussion? If not, raise your hands. Okay.
This will be known as Bill number 1586, and the public hearing will be held on Tuesday, July 8th at 5:30 p.m., as will all the other bills, these bills, if they're introduced.
Okay.
A bill to amend bill numbers 1558 and 1391 for the purpose of amending the appropriation for the replacement and improvement of HVAC systems at facilities owned by Talbot County.
This bill amends prior authorization by $200,000, adding additional funds to cover the cost for finishing HVAC at the courthouse and replacing the HVAC system at Port Street for the roads department.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, raise your hands.
Introduced by council.
This will be known as bill number 1587. A bill to authorize Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA improvements to buildings and properties owned by Talbot County.
Okay.
This bill authorizes the county to spend up to $100,000 on county facilities and infrastructure to ensure ADA compliance.
Okay. Any discussion? If not, raise your hands.
Introduced by council.
This will be known as bill number 1588. A bill to authorize the replacement and improvement of the Talbot County-owned building and property located at 100 South Hanson Street in Easton, Maryland.
This bill authorizes the county to spend up to $100,000 on the replacement, improvements, or demolition of the building or property at the 100 South Hanson Street address. This was the previous location of the Talbot County Health Department.
Okay, any discussion? If not, raise your hands.
Introduced by council.
This will be known as bill number 1589. A bill to amend bill numbers 1554 and 1427 for the purpose of amending the appropriation for the construction of new recycling stations in Talbot County.
This bill amends prior authorization by $150,000, the funding necessary for the development for a new station next to the Perry Cabin Park adjacent to the Maryland Route 33.
Okay. Any discussion?
One
Okay.
comment with 2 words, well
Yep.
needed.
Yep, I agree. So we're trying to do the best we can to get that under straight. Okay, raise your hands.
Introduced by council.
This will be known as bill number 1590. A bill to amend bill numbers 1559, 1536, and 1187 for the purpose of amending the appropriation for extension of water and sewer lines to the Talbot County Community Center and the proposed University of Maryland Shore Regional Medical Center Hospital site located between Longwoods Road, Maryland Route 662, and US Route 50 in Easton, Maryland.
This bill amends prior authorization by $5 million. It provides the additional funds needed to complete the extension of water and sewer infrastructure to the new hospital site. In FY '25, only half of the total estimated cost was appropriated, so this is the additional funding needed to address the county's obligation to provide these utilities to the new hospital site.
Okay, any discussion on that? Okay, raise your hands.
Introduced by council.
This will be known as Bill number 1591. A bill to amend Bill numbers 1560, 1537, 1509, and 1484 for the purpose of amending the appropriation for a capital project for the construction of emergency medical services stations.
This amends prior authorization by $650,000. These additional funds accommodate the design and construction of entrance and building safety requirements at the North EMS Station in Cordova, Maryland.
Okay, any discussion on the new EMS entrance? Okay, that's a big deal for everybody in the county. That's big. So I'll raise your hands for that.
Introduced by council.
This will be known as Bill number 1592. A bill to amend Bill numbers 1563, 1542, and 1505 for the purpose of amending the appropriation for replacement and improvement of 911 Division Technologies and the 911 Division Computer Aided Dispatch CAD system.
This amends prior authorization by $1,325,323. $450,000 is being added to the long-term borrowing to accommodate the cost of the Motorola lease, which is the radio system. And $875,323 is to accommodate the grant funding that was added to match the funds obligated for the network equipment through the American Rescue Plan Act grant and funding from Maryland 911 Board for 2 emergency generators.
Okay. Any discussion with this one here? Okay, raise your hands.
Introduced by council.
This will be known as Bill number 1593.
Okay,
A bill to authorize the replacement and improvement of the greens at the Talbot County Hogneck Golf Course.
This authorizes the county to spend up to $320,000, and it provides sufficient funding for the first year of a 2-year project, and it also allows for residing of the greens at Hogneck Golf Course.
mhm. Any discussion on that? The only thing I was thinking was, that was in his budget, wasn't it? Yeah, yeah, okay. All right, raise your hands.
Introduced by council.
This will be known as Bill number 1594. A bill to authorize the replacement and improvement of the cart paths and paved areas at the Talbot County Hogneck Golf Course.
This authorizes the county to spend up to $500,000, providing sufficient funding for the first year of a 3-year project. It allows for paving of cart paths and improvements to paved areas at the Hogneck Golf Course.
Okay, any discussion on that? I'm glad to see this bill, that's for sure. There'll be a lot of happy golfers. So raise your hands.
Introduced by council.
This will be known as Bill number 1595.
Okay, good.
A bill to amend Bill number 1571 for the purpose of amending the appropriation for replacement of dehumidifiers at the Talbot County Community Center.
This amends the prior authorization by adding $880,000. This authorizes the design, engineering, purchase, replacement, and installation of dehumidifiers at the Talbot County Community Center and includes the replacement of the dehumidifier for the main ice area.
Okay, any discussion on the dehumidifier to the ice rink?
A lot of hockey A lot of hockey,
Lot of hockey.
happy hockey families,
Ye-
happy figure
Yeah,
skating families.
exactly. Yeah, it's all good stuff. Okay, raise of hands.
Introduced by council.
This will be known as Bill number 1596.
Okay,
A bill to amend Bill numbers 1556 and 1533 for the purpose of amending the appropriation for improvements to the Talbot County Detention Center.
This amends prior authorization by $350,000. The additional funds will be used to cover increasing costs related to HVAC system upgrades and the conversion to digital electronic controls.
okay. Any discussion on that? Okay, raise of hands.
Introduced by council.
Mhm.
This will be known as Bill number 1597. A bill to amend Bill numbers 1555, 1532, and 1516 for the purpose of amending the appropriation for improvements to and expansion of the St. Michael's branch of the Talbot County Free Library.
This amends prior authorization by allowing us to use $332,450 in development impact fees for revenue for this project in replacement of local funds
Okay,
that were appropriated in a prior fiscal year.
any discussion?
Just
Yeah.
good to see that this project moving along toward completion.
Yep, exactly. Okay, raise of hands.
Introduced by council.
This will be known as Bill number 1598.
Okay,
A bill to amend Bill numbers 1557, 1534, 1486, and 1424 for the purpose of amending the appropriation to purchase improved or unimproved real property for future county purposes.
This amends prior authorization by $2 million with added funds for the possibility of a storage facility and site location.
okay. Any questions on this one? Okay, raise of hands. Mhm.
Introduced by council.
This will be known as Bill number 1599. A bill to amend Bill numbers 1368 and 1343 for the purpose of amending the appropriation for security enhancements to county facilities.
This amends prior authorization by adding $190,000. These additional funds will be for the installation of access controls and video cameras for security at county facilities.
Okay. Any questions or discussions on this one? Okay, raise the hands.
Introduced by council.
This will be known as Bill number 1600. A bill to amend Bill number 1546 for the purpose of amending the appropriation for a feasibility study for and possible future construction of a Talbot County Visitor Center.
This amends prior authorization by $500,000. It expands the language of the legislation to allow for design and construction costs as this project develops in subsequent years, and the additional funds for FY '26 are anticipated for planning and design costs depending on the progress of the project.
Okay, any discussion? Or raise of hands?
Introduced by council.
This will be known as Bill number 1601.
Okay, I just want to let everybody know we're halfway there.
A bill to authorize the acquisition and or construction of and improvements to county storage facilities.
Okay,
This authorizes the county to spend up to $300,000 in storage improvements with the current intent of purchasing or constructing an equipment shed in the county roads department yard area.
okay. Any questions on that? Raise the hands.
Just gonna leave my hand up.
Introduced by council.
This will be known as Bill number 1602. A bill to amend Bill numbers 1567, 1541, and 1506 for the purpose of amending the appropriation for improvements to county roads.
Okay,
This amends prior authorization by $1 million. It authorizes surveying, drainage improvements, surface upgrades, construction, and widening of county roads.
Okey doke. Any questions about roads? Okay, hearing none, raise of hands.
Introduced by council.
This will be known as Bill number 1603. A bill to amend Bill numbers 1518, 1285, and 1082 for the purpose of amending the appropriation for improvements to the Tunis Mills Bridge.
This amends prior authorization by $2,770,000, $2.4 million of which is anticipated grant funding. This authorizes engineering, design, construction, acquisition, easements for improvements to be made to the Tunis Mills Bridge and the area approaching the bridge.
Okay. This is definitely something we're gonna raise our hand. Yes.
Introduced by council.
Yeah.
This will be known as Bill number 1604. A bill to amend Bill numbers 1507, 1361, 1332, 1307, and 1267 for the purpose of amending the appropriation for the mapping, evaluation, and rehabilitation or replacement of county culverts.
This amends prior authorization by $300,000 and represents a shift from grant funding to local funds. It authorizes mapping, evaluation, and rehabilitation or replacement of county culverts.
Okay, any questions on this one? Raise your hands.
Introduced by council.
This will be known as Bill number 1605. A bill to amend Bill number 1569 for the purpose of amending the appropriation for the construction and improvements to the concession stand at the Talbot County Community Sports Complex.
This amends prior authorization with a decrease of $190,000. It authorizes construction and improvements to the concession stand at the Talbot County Community Center. It was originally anticipated that we would use program open space funding when this project was first legislated.
Okay. Discussion up. Mr. Stepp, you did a great job with that. That's for sure.
Snack Shack did it, he made it happen.
Exactly, yep. Good job on that. Any other discussion? Okay, raise your hands.
Introduced by council.
This will be known as Bill number 1606. A bill to authorize the replacements and improvements of county community pools and associated property.
This authorizes the county to spend up to $160,000. It authorizes improvements to be made at the George Murphy Pool and the Bay 100 Pool. It allows for the refurbishment and replacement of critical equipment and components of the pools and connected property.
Okay. Any questions on the polls? Okay, raise your hands.
Introduced by council.
This will be known as Bill number 1607. A bill to authorize replacement and improvement of stadium lighting at St. Michael's Middle and High School.
This authorizes spending up to $260,500 for the replacement and improvement of stadium lighting at St. Michael's Middle and High School to LED lighting. This project was requested by Talbot County Public Schools, the Talbot County Board of Education.
Okay. Any questions on that? Okay, raise your hands.
Introduced by council.
This will be known as Bill number 1608.
Before you go through those, Caitlin has a paragraph she wants to read
Okay.
about the sanitary
Okay.
district. Go ahead.
The following bills related to the sanitary district capital projects will be funded by a combination of federal and state grants, long-term borrowing, and funds from the sanitary district fund. All costs incurred for these capital projects shall be repaid from the revenues generated from fees paid by the users of and/or operation of these facilities and sewer systems.
Okay. Now you go.
Now, Susan.
Now Susan.
I was waiting for
Okay.
a bill to amend Bill numbers 1364 and 1341 for the purpose of amending the appropriation for the watershed improvement plan for the east and northeast areas of the Region 2 St. Michael's wastewater treatment plant area.
This amends prior authorization by $9 million. It allows for installation of septic tank effluent pumps, step systems, and the payment of all required fees for each property to connect to the sewer system. Approximately 300 properties will be connected to the sewer system as part of Resolution 235, which is an amendment that expanded Region 2 wastewater service area. The amendment also updates language in the legislation to allow for borrowing of approximately $7 million from the Maryland Department of the Environment, with a portion being considered for loan forgiveness. Grant funding will also be provided by the Maryland Bay Restoration Fund and the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency.
Okay. Any other questions, discussion on that? Or raise of hands?
Introduced by council.
This will be known as Bill number 1609. A bill to amend Bill number 1429 for the purpose of amending the appropriation for the watershed improvement plan for the west area of the Region 2 St. Michael's wastewater treatment plant area.
This amends prior authorization by $5.88 million and allows for the installation of step tank effluent pumps or step systems and the payment of all required fees for each property to connect to the sewer system. Approximately 610 properties will be connected to the sewer system as part of Resolution 250, which is an amendment that expanded Region 2 wastewater service area. The amendment also updates language and legislation to allow for long-term borrowing.
Okay. Any discussion on that? Okay, raise of hands.
Introduced by council.
This will be known as Bill number 1610. A bill to amend Bill numbers 1502 and 1418 for the purpose of amending the appropriation for the connection of the Barnett and Fairbank communities to the Region 5 Tillman wastewater treatment plant.
This amends prior authorization by $2.31 million. It authorizes the construction of sewer collection and pumping systems to connect to Barnett and Fairbank communities to the Region 5 Tillman wastewater treatment plant. It includes installation of septic tank effluent pump systems, step systems, and payment of all required fees for each property to connect to the sewer system. Approximately 146 properties will be connected to the sewer system as part of Resolution 318, which was an amendment that expanded the Region 5 wastewater service area.
Okay. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, raise of hands.
Introduced by council.
This will be known as Bill number 1611. A bill to amend Bill number 1431 for the purpose of amending the appropriation for improvements to the Region 5 Tillman wastewater treatment plant, pump stations, collection systems, and enhanced nutrient removal ENR technology.
This amends prior authorization by $12 million and authorizes upgrades to the existing pump station and upgrade and expansion of the ENR technologies in Region 5. It authorizes upgrade to the gravity sewer system and county roads for inflow and infiltration purposes, and it is part of the state's water quality improvement plan to upgrade all wastewater treatment plants discharging into the Chesapeake Bay and tributaries.
Okay. Any discussion on that, council? Raise of hands.
God bless you.
Introduced by council.
This will be known as Bill number 1612. A bill to authorize the sewer system extension to the Marine Engineers Beneficial Association, MEBA, Engineering School of St. Michael's Road in Talbot County.
This authorizes the county to spend up to $1.5 million. It authorizes the connection of MEBA to Region 2 wastewater system. A comprehensive water and sewer plan amendment will be prepared. The project will eliminate a secondary wastewater treatment plant and consolidate the wastewater treatment at the Region 2 Enhanced Nutrient Removal ENR wastewater treatment plant.
Okay. Any discussion, council? Raise of hands.
Introduced by council.
This will be known as Bill number 1613. A bill to authorize replacements and improvements to pump stations and surrounding property in Region 1 of the Talbot County Sanitary District.
This authorizes the county to spend up to $3 million, and it authorizes improvements to the existing pump station in Unionville, Tunis Mills, and Copperville area of Sanitary District Region 1. This would standardize pumps and pump station controls and construct remote storage facilities for future staging of construction and repair equipment for emergencies.
Okay. Any discussion on this, council? Hearing none, raise your hands.
Introduced by council.
This will be known as Bill number 1614. A bill to authorize replacements and improvements to pump stations and surrounding property in the Royal Oak, Newcomb, and Bellevue areas in Region 2 of the Talbot County Sanitary District.
This authorizes the county to spend up to $3 million. It authorizes for improvements to the existing pump stations 2 and 3 in these communities, which would standardize pumps and pump station controls and allow for the possibility of constructing a remote storage facility for future staging of construction and repair equipment for emergencies.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay, raise your hands.
Introduced by council.
This will be known as Bill number 1615. A bill to authorize replacements and improvements to pump stations and surrounding property in the St. Michael's area in Region 2 of the Talbot County Sanitary District.
This bill authorizes county spending up to $2 million, and it authorizes improvements to existing pump stations 1 and 2 that would standardize pumps and pump station controls and allow for the possibility of constructing a storage building at the Region 2 wastewater treatment plant for construction and repair equipment.
Okay. Any discussion, council? Okay, raise your hands.
Introduced by council.
Okay.
This will be known as Bill number 1616, and again, the public hearing on all these bills will be held on Tuesday, July 8th at 5:30 p.m.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good job. Okay, Madam Secretary, let's move on.
A bill to amend Chapter 190 zoning, subdivision, and land development of the Talbot County Code for the purposes of enacting regulations regarding dissolved air flotation, DAF residuals, food processing residuals, and liquid organic soil amendments, providing that the storage of such materials is a permitted use in the agricultural conservation, AC, countryside preservation, CP, western rural conservation, WRC, and rural conservation, RC zoning districts, and defining terms associated therewith.
Okay.
Council, thank
Yep,
you.
thank you.
Bryce Yelton, Talbot County Planning and Zoning. Just wanted to come up, and this is the bill that was brought before you by the Planning Commission. So the Planning Commission has been working on this with staff for the greater part of the last year. Just want to go over some things. This text adds a definition for dissolved air flotation, food processing residuals, and liquid organic soil amendments. It also adds a land classification for farmers to establish these storage sites for these uses with restrictions that will go through the Planning Commission in certain districts. And it also restricts DAF and other farms only to applicable farmers' nutrient management plans. And so we've seen over the shore in the past couple of years other local jurisdictions enact legislation that severely restricts DAF residuals and food processing residuals to go on farmland. This was initiated by our Planning Commission essentially in an effort to match what our other local jurisdictions have been doing in this arena. And this legislation essentially brings us up to par on what our local jurisdictions surrounding us are doing. This also would allow farmers to temporarily store these materials in temporary closed storage for up to 90 days. And it would also prohibit open top storage containers, which has been a problem in other local jurisdictions.
Okay, good. Okay, any discussion, council?
Well, I want to thank the staff for getting this up to this point, guiding it through. This is highly technical, and we've certainly seen surrounding jurisdictions struggling with this issue. We don't want Talbot County simply to be the last unregulated jurisdiction and therefore the easy place to go for the bad actors in this. We see accepted levels of regulation of this material in the surrounding jurisdictions. Caroline County, I know, particularly struggled with this, and it seems appropriate for us to be following suit. I take it this will then get a recommendation from the Planning Commission?
This has already received a recommendation from the Planning Commission, so it's been recommended to you as consistent with the comprehensive plan and the current county code as written for your review and consideration.
Outstanding. Thank you.
Okay. Raise of hands.
Introduced by council. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This will be known as Bill number 1617, and the public hearing will be held on Tuesday, July 8th at 5:30 p.m.
Okay.
A bill to amend Chapter 190 zoning, subdivision, and land development of the Talbot County Code for the purposes of providing that cannabis growing and the process of cannabis grown on-site shall be permitted uses in the agricultural conservation, AC, countryside preservation, CP, and western rural conservation, WRC zoning districts, providing that the processing of cannabis not grown on-site shall be permitted by special exception in the AC, CP, and WRC zoning districts, and providing that cannabis dispensaries shall be permitted by special exception in the limited commercial, LC, general commercial, GC, and limited industrial, LI zoning districts, each subject to certain conditions and defining terms associated therewith.
Okay.
Good evening, Council. For the
Yep.
record, Brennan Tarleton with the Department of Planning and Zoning. I believe the County Council gave the initiative in the early part of 2024 for the Office of Law and the Office of Planning and Zoning to draft some regulations regarding cannabis for Talbot County. After doing so, we did provide those to the Planning Commission for their review, at which point they scheduled and requested a work session with you all back in September of 2024, in which we had a discussion about those regulations and how the county wished to move forward with enacting regulations. So in December of 2024, the Planning Commission reviewed the draft cannabis legislation and provided some minor amendments to basically put together the format of the legislation as you see it today. So they've provided this legislation with a positive recommendation as well, noting that it is consistent with the comprehensive plan. A couple of those notable changes that we made from the beginning part of the process is that we broke each aspect of the operation for cannabis out. Originally, we had cannabis growing under agricultural production and cannabis processing under agricultural processing. We've since broken those out into separate land uses that are depicted within this bill and shown in the table of land use as revised. So for cannabis growers, you have minimum setback requirements, minimum lot size requirements, a requirement that it be conducted on a property that's actively farmed and granted agricultural assessment from the Department of Assessment and Taxation. And it also denotes and requires that a major site plan approval is required, which would have to go through the Planning Commission's review and approval process. And then down in the cannabis processor section, the setbacks essentially mirror that of what the cannabis growing is, with again the minimum lot size requirement of 20 acres, and then also the stipulation of the actively farmed property and a major site plan approval. Now, for cannabis processing alone, that's not in conjunction with cannabis growing, that facility is only permitted, as you'll see under the table of land uses provided, as a special exception use. So that would not only require the major site plan, but it would also require a special exception be granted from the Board of Appeals if the processing is to take place separate and apart from a growing operation. I just wanted to note that for the record, just for the clarity of that. But from there, we have the cannabis dispensary use, which requires that the dispensaries not be located within 500 feet of a pre-existing primary or secondary school, licensed child care facilities, registered family child care facilities, educational facilities, playground, recreation center, library, public park, or place of worship, or within 1,000 feet of another licensed cannabis dispensary. And the hours of operation stipulated for that is 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. And the cannabis dispensary use is permitted only by special exception in the county's commercial industrial districts. Below those land use classifications, we have the terms as defined. These were basically mirrored straight out of the state code's requirements and their definitions that they enacted for cannabis dispensaries, growers, processors, and we even have some definitions in here for cannabis product and cannabis infused product. And we also included stipulations in here for greenhouse, retail, and wholesale to exclude the growing of cannabis to be part of those operations because those are an entirely separate land use.
Okay. Any questions?
Yeah, I know that, of course, as you mentioned, the state mandates that we zone for this. We get to deal with the details about precisely how that is done. Am I correct that the state has not yet issued any licenses for growing or processing within Talbot County?
They have.
They have.
They have.
It's my understanding that they have issued growing licenses, and I believe there are some dispensary licenses that have also been issued for Talbot County, but that's not exclusive to just the county. That includes the municipalities as well. So I believe that there is somebody that has a dispensary license currently pursuing, I believe, the Board of Appeals process with the town of Easton,
Right.
getting an approved use for a dispensary within the town limits. But there have been growing licenses that have been issued for Talbot County as well. I'm not aware of the processing aspect and whether or not licenses have also been issued for that.
But presumably, they will still need to go through this zoning process that we are setting up once to put that into place.
Absolutely.
To make use of that license.
In order to allow for the use, they would have to go through the parameters that are stipulated under this legislation. So for growing facilities, be it a major site plan and in the permitted zoning district, subject to the other bulk requirements, and for processing and dispensaries, special exception in the zoning districts established under this legislation as well, and also subject to the bulk requirements.
So by legislating on this now, we haven't missed the boat on those early licenses that were issued.
No, and currently we have no active development applications that have been received by our office for growing, processing, or dispensaries.
But that to me underlines the urgency of dealing with this. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay, any other questions from council, discussion? Okay. All raise a hand. Okay.
So introduced by
Yeah.
Callahan, Lesher, and Haith.
This will be known as Bill number 1618,
Okay.
and the public hearing will be on Tuesday, July 8th at 5:30
Okay.
p.m.
All right, thank you, guys. I know you worked hard on that, so I appreciate that. Long, yep, good job. Okay. Mr. Stan,
Good evening.
good evening.
So under County Manager, this report this evening, we have no new board and committee appointments to bring forth to you this evening. There are several items of business I have for you. The first, we have a request from the Talbot County Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee for a letter of support of application for FY26 Safe Streets and Roads for an all-planning grant. We have Heather Grant, the chair of that committee, as well as Cassandra Van Hoosier, and I think Pete Lesher can speak as a liaison to that group as well. So I'm going to ask Cassandra to come up and Heather.
Good evening, Council. Cassandra Van Hooser, Talbot County Economic Development and Tourism.
Good evening, Heather Grant, Chair of Talbot County Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee.
We're excited to be here tonight. Just an overview of how we got here. You passed a resolution in September of 2024, amended in February of 2025, to appoint a Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee. You appointed that committee, and we had our first meeting in April of 2025 and have had a subsequent meeting in May. The express purpose of you appointing this committee, one of them was to develop a countywide bicycle and pedestrian master plan. And that's what we're here to discuss tonight. And I'll toss it to Heather, who is the chairman elected by her peers of the committee, Ed Hikus as vice chairman. So Heather, you want to talk about the grant?
I would love to. Thank you for the introduction. I hope this will be the first of many positive interactions between myself, this committee, and the council. To spearhead the work of the committee, we need the guidance and a plan to move forward. We are not transportation experts, and the opportunity to apply for this grant would give us the ability to hire an expert to help us complete a bicycle and pedestrian safety action plan. The plan would gather and use data analysis to identify specific conditions, roadway safety problems, and hotspots to dictate our community's approach, help institute change in culture, increase collaboration across safety stakeholders, and refocus transportation system design, develop a set of recommendations informed by that data and public input so that the county leadership can agree upon and refer to it in the future, and most importantly, further align us with federal zero death and state complete streets requirements. I realize this is a last-minute request. The deadline for this grant application is June 26th, which is why we requested to be on the agenda this evening. So I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about the request.
And just to piggyback on this, the request is to apply for up to $300,000 grant, which requires a 20% match. It could be in kind or cash match. And then again, Pete, I don't know if you'd want to add anything as well.
And an example of an in-kind match for this would be staff time?
Staff time to help collate information, data, administrative support for the process.
Volunteer time also counts. The state of Maryland has a dedicated rate for volunteer time. We use that for all of our grants.
Okay. Well, this is an essential first step in getting this the purposes of this committee off the ground to as Ms. Grant testified to set priorities, and so I would encourage council support for this. If there's cash required, Mr. Stamp, that would beyond the in-kind match that would come from.
I would ask council for consideration for use of contingency.
Thank you.
Mr. Lusher, can you talk about the whole Cordova thing that you and I talked about the other day?
Sure.
Yes, to let people just know.
The State Department of Natural Resources has a project to, or is looking at a project to convert the rail corridor between Easton and Cordova and beyond into a bike trail. That is a state project, and while it could be, I presume, mentioned in here, it would presumably not be a priority for county funding because wouldn't be our project. That is, I think we hope that we would be consulted on how that plan would come together as part of this.
Yeah.
So I'll address that as well.
Sure.
This is not about the Frederick Douglass Rail Trail, which is what the name of that proposed area would be up through Cordova to the town of Queen Anne.
Right.
This is about looking at the entire county as a whole and creating a safety action plan.
Okay.
I believe we had maybe a week or so ago, someone was hit on a bike in St. Michael's. You know, I see the people on the roads that they pass my house. I even passed somebody at 9:17 p.m. Riding their bike, which I presume they were taking it to work, on St. Michael's Road. There's a pinch point there at the Pincushion. There are other areas throughout the county. And I'm just really interested in making sure that our streets are safe for everyone who uses them. We all help pay for the roads here. We need safe streets for all, which, by the way, is the name of this grant, and it is a federal transportation grant. It's for the purpose of reviewing and making sure that you have a safety action plan, so the roads are safe for everyone.
So with saying that, Cassandra, so the grant gives you the ability to do the design work and studies. Who's going to pay for it?
So this is a planning grant. So they would be, you know, looking at all of the things that are you know, going on in the county and assessing them and sort of laying out priorities. So again, it's a United States Department of Transportation
grant called Safe Streets for All. And right now, there is funding for this, and the deadline, as Heather said, is June 26th, and we expect there may be one more round of this, but, you know, this is what we're looking at for now.
Sure. Okay. Okay, any other questions, council? Okay.
I'll move approval of the letter of support.
I second.
Okay. I got a motion second for a letter of support. Madam Secretary, could you call the vote?
Mr. Callahan?
Aye.
Mr. Stepp?
Aye.
Mr. Lesher?
Aye.
Ms. Milky?
Aye.
Ms. Hayes?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you very much.
Good job.
Thank you,
Okay.
council.
Yep.
Next item we have, I'll call Rich Setterup, your head golf professional, manager of the Hog Neck Golf Course. He's here this evening to request council's consideration for a retroactive approval and award of a payment to H&H Marine Construction in the amount of $60,825 for the emergency repair of the bridge at the 9th hole at Hog Neck Golf Course. There are sufficient funds in the budget for this project, and Rich is here to add more or answer any questions.
Good evening, council. Nice to see everybody.
Yep.
Here to answer any questions.
It sounds like this project is actually a savings from what was previously proposed. a
It was
repair in lieu
considerable
of-
amount of savings.
Yeah.
You know, when we were looking at all the design and the permitting and all that, we were upwards of 200,000, but we were able to get the job done for a lot less than that.
Thank you for your
Thank you.
innovation and initiative to make that happen that way.
Okay, great. Any other discussion?
And
Okay.
again, this was an emergency repair
Yeah.
for a pier that was actually holding the structure up, and it was failing.
Sure.
So.
Okay. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Okay, we got a motion second. Madam, huh?
Do we have a second?
Yeah.
You should-
Mhm.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yep. We got a motion second. Madam Secretary, could you call the vote?
Mr. Callahan?
Aye.
Mr. Stepp?
Aye.
Mr. Lesher?
Aye.
Ms. Milky?
Aye.
Ms. Hayes?
Aye.
Okay, good job.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Next, council, I'd ask Ray Clark, your county engineer, to come forward. The Department of Public Works is requesting council approval to award, award wastewater treatment plant in the amount of $67,622. Let's see, this is for, Ray, you want to go ahead?
Joe, this is an emergency repair we had back in April. Ultimately, the line that we have two lagoons. We have an influent lagoon and an effluent lagoon. We have a 12-inch pipe that ended up getting clogged with sludge. So we were starting to overflow the influent lagoon. So to avoid an overflow into the Chesapeake Bay, we ended up having to work very quickly with Good Life, who does a lot of contract work for us. At the same time, we ended up having to utilize Good Life's haulers, tanker trucks, to make sure that we keep the flows down. The strategy here was to go ahead and put a new 12-inch line next to the existing line with the riser pipe up, so we could avoid the sludge from coming in. We also put a new valve in there, as well as clean out, so we could blow out that line in the future. So again, it was for $67,622, and we had roughly about $90,000 in that operating budget to cover that.
Okay. Just want to highlight Josh, our assistant county engineer, and Russell Lease, part of the team. They jumped on this quick and prevented what could have been a pretty significant environmental situation.
Okay, good job. All right. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion second. Madam Secretary, could you call the vote?
Mr. Callahan?
Aye.
Mr. Stepp?
Aye.
Mr. Lesher?
Aye.
Ms. Milky?
Aye.
Ms. Hayes?
And Ray's going to continue by asking council's consideration for request to move utility lines on Goldsboro Neck Road as part of the upgrade to that roadway that you're aware of, in the amount of $105,213.50, and he will go over the details of that.
Again, this is, we've been working with both Eastern Utilities as well as Verizon. And Verizon, unfortunately, we're going to get hit with about $105,213.50 to go ahead and maintain an overhead line that's currently in our construction area for our culvert that we're looking at widening on Goldsboro Neck Road. We will then move that over and then cross over where Villa Road is and then come back over. A lot of the costs associated with this is the splicing of their cables, I guess. So it's really kind of relocating that line and then resplicing it. So it's the $105,213.50. We unfortunately have no other way to get this done without moving forward.
Any questions, discussions? Okay. Is there a motion?
I'll move approval.
Second.
Okay. We got a motion second. Madam Secretary, could you call the vote?
Mr. Callahan?
Aye.
Mr. Step?
Abstain.
Mr. Lesher?
Aye.
Ms. Milky?
Aye.
Ms. Hayes?
Aye.
Thank you, Council, and thank you, Ray.
Thank you.
Ask Micah Richter to come up, your airport manager. Initially, he's going to ask you several things this evening, but the first is you have a request from the Easton Airport to reject sole bid received for bid number 2508, Package 3, improve RSA and extend runway 422 Easton Newman Field Airport ESN, Talbot County, Maryland. Here, go over the details with you.
Council, thank you. Micah Richter, your airport manager. I appreciate your time and your support. So here we are, bidding season for all the packages, and a little bit of backstory. Obviously, we're in the middle of the biggest, most complex project that we've ever undertaken at the airport, and by proof of that, we put a lot of work into this, into our Package 3. Package 3 was the plan to open the new runway next year. A little bit of unfortunate news is we only received one bid, and it was an unusable bid. Kind of put us in a bit of a situation that we're working through. I could go on and give you the reasons why. There's a bunch of reasons why. There's a lot of projects out there. Ours was complex. There's easier ones. Contractors said there's just, they're spread thin. We have a lot of projects going on in the region. Of course, costs are up. There's some uncertainty with pricing and tariffs and things of that nature. So the one bid that we did receive is well outside the parameters that FAA will accept for any price escalation. It is a completely unusable bid. So the first item of business is I'm asking that you officially reject that one bid, because the goal, the goal is going to be immediately go to rebid over the next few weeks, repackage it. We're actually working on our base bid right now. We're kind of cutting it down to where it'll be more digestible, if you will, for contractors. We're breaking some of the more expensive pieces out, putting them in ad alternates later in the year. That way we have some flexibility with timing, things of that nature. So I've worked with FAA to get us that approval to go slightly beyond the June 16th window. So they're going to allow us to open bids on July 1. So the great news here is FAA wants to get this done. They are fully supportive. The Washington District Office, they want this project to be done. We've been working on it for 20 years. They want to get us over the line as well. So they were disappointed that we didn't get a usable bid. So the goal is to repackage it so we can get a good quality bid out of it, something we can use to move forward. So, and there's, it's a mixed bag of things out there in the economy right now. So from the optimistic point of view, there will be airports that are not able to receive federal funding this year. If we're in a position to move, we will be able to receive that extra funding either later this year or next year. So we could move even faster. It's kind of like unknown right now. So, but what this is getting us a placehold. It gets us something workable so we can keep the project moving.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay. Is there a motion?
Motion to reject.
Second.
Okay. Got a motion second. Madam Secretary, could you call the vote?
Mr. Callahan?
Aye.
Mr. Step?
Aye.
Mr. Lesher?
Aye.
Ms. Milky?
Aye.
Ms. Hayes?
Aye.
Okay.
And
you
while
got it.
Mike is here, he'll roll right into his next request.
Yes, and so the second official request is approval from council to apply for the grants. So like I said, we're rebidding the project right now, and we're going to have pricing in over the next few weeks, and then we are going to have a grant application ready to go on July 1 to FAA. So I officially need permission to apply for that grant up to $6 million.
Okay. Okay.
Second.
So we got a motion second to apply for the $6 million grant. Madam Secretary, could you call the vote?
Mr. Callahan?
Aye.
Mr. Step?
Aye.
Mr. Lesher?
Aye.
Ms. Milky?
Aye.
Ms. Hayes? Aye.
Okay.
Thank
Good
you.
job.
And the
Okay.
third one is probably, this hopefully is the easiest one of the night. Every few years, I come in front of you to request permission to renew the letter of support for the Deer Cooperator Program. That is the program, the public safety permit that we've been enrolled in it for decades. It allows the airport to call the deer population year-round, obviously to remove deer from the airport when they are a hazard. You know, we use it sparingly, quite frankly. I don't think we've taken more than about 6 deer off the airport in the last few years. When we do remove deer, we take them to get processed, and they go to food banks and things of that nature. Specifically this year, every year they tweak it a little bit. They wanted some specific language put in there, which I provided to the county manager and the county attorney. It has to be a letter of support coming from you and the county attorney for us to continue in the program.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay. Is there a motion? Okay. We got a motion second. Madam Secretary, could you call the vote?
Mr. Callahan?
Aye.
Mr. Step?
Aye.
Mr. Lesher?
Aye.
Ms. Milky?
Aye.
Ms. Hayes? Aye.
Thank you,
Okay.
Micah.
All right, thank you.
Good job.
Council, that completes your county manager report for this evening, and I just again like to thank council for your continued support. 31 pieces of enabling legislation, which drives a great deal of work to benefit Talbot County. Thank you for giving us the policy leadership and support. So on behalf of the 14 department heads and over 300 county employees, thank you.
Thank you. Good job. Okay, next on the agenda is a public comment, and I think
We have just one person signed up, which is in advance, which is Jim Bruce.
okay.
Good evening. Jim Bruce from St. Michael's. I was unfortunately in a church trustees meeting when you had your reconsideration of the DEI resolutions of the county. I had somebody write transcripts, basically, so I think I know what happened. And I just wanted to comment on that. I understand what you did, and I think I understand why. I mean, first of all, the Talbot resolutions never had anything to do with hiring practices. The words themselves said, we want the county employees to be aware of the diversity of the public they serve. Second, later, afterwards, President Trump issued the DEI executive order that basically attacked anything with a label of DEI on it. And so one could argue that there was a label, but there was never any real substance to this. What the county was doing was somehow a hiring practice, DEI. I testified, and I wrote a letter to all the members when you reconsidered resolutions, and I said that I didn't think that a president could deny federal funding to a county project because the county took some unrelated action on an unrelated matter. In other words, the president can't deny funding for an airport or a hospital because the county asked its employees to be aware of the diversity of those who serve the public and who work for the county. Multiple federal judges have issued TROs on this very issue. So it's in litigation. I think the real issue here is the rule of law has broken down. And it's broken down enough sufficiently that people can make credible threats about what's going to happen if a county takes action the president's supporters think they disagree with. The council approved the DEI resolutions, and then after President Trump's executive order was issued, there was a challenge to them, but that challenge failed. And so there was clear political embarrassment, let's be honest. So some have come up with arguments that county funding for the airport, I think was what you discussed. I've heard rumors that somehow the hospital's funding is at risk now, and that's only because people believe that is just enough danger. You can't count on the rule of law necessarily holding here. And to me, that's a very disturbing thing, and it's a slippery slope that, I don't really blame President Trump. I don't think he follows what happens in the Talbot County Council and is concerned about what resolutions are passed or not. There were those who were embarrassed who do follow it and saw a way, in my opinion, to tie it to a credible threat that there would be a denial of funding to projects we need. I understand what Mr. Lesher did, and I think he described the situation very well. So anyway, that's my comments, and I think we need to be very, very cautious about this, because I don't want to see the council's determinations ruled by those who claim that they see some connection between 250 executive orders.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Yes, sir. Come on up.
I'm Dr. James Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
I think you all know me.
Mhm.
And two thoughts. As you guys decide on the zoning and cannabis, I understand that is a zoning question that was at hand. Regular cannabis use, studies are showing, causes a 10-point drop in IQ. And we believe that that's permanent, which begs the question of, is this brain damage, which we think it may actually be? And this is most acute for teenagers. So as you ponder this, even though it is now legal, it does not mean, and often is the opposite of it being good. It's not good, it's not healthy. So take care of the brains of our children, please. Other thought, your reconsideration of the DEI. Thank you and congratulations. Good government puts personal ideologies underneath what is best for the people of the county. And I believe that's what you did today. And hearing and reading, it is masterfully written. It addresses what I believe all of you want, which is to take care of people. I don't believe anybody here is interested in discriminating or harassing or harming anyone. It's just that some people believe that DIE, discrimination, is good, and some people believe that no discrimination is good. My question is, it's been in the law for years. Since 1964, the Civil Rights Act outlawed discrimination. So was discrimination rampant in Talbot County government, that there was some necessity 4 years ago for there to be a study or an introduction of any policy in any way related to DIE?
DEI.
Well, when it refers to doctors, and if we cut the qualifications, people actually die.
But the proper acronym is DEI, okay?
You
That
say
is-
tomato, I
that-
say
no, That's the
tomato.
proper acronym for it. That is what it is.
Are you not interested in diversity of acronyms? Do I have to use the order that you decide? Are you not interested in diversity?
Chuck, are you done?
Well,
But my question is,
well,
was discrimination
this
a
is- this is-
problem?
This is his time. Just, you've got.
Yes.
Yeah.
Was discrimination a problem? I think it was 4 years ago that the council thought that they needed to add something to the law which already said discrimination is illegal. Was the Talbot County not actually following the 1964 Civil Rights Act? That's my question.
Well, it's your time. We're not here to answer questions.
Oh.
Okay, so, and your time's
Does anybody
up.
want to answer that question?
Your time's up.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for doing a good job
I can
tonight.
tell you that discrimination does exist, sitting here as the African American minority. And I've had a lot of discriminatory suits that I brought forth. So sitting from this perspective and from a race perspective, yes, discrimination was in existence then, and it still is.
I don't think anybody refuses that.
It still exists.
Oh,
It does.
absolutely, and we
It
should eliminate all discrimination. I agree with you, but reverse discrimination is discrimination,
Yes.
and we should
That
have
is
no
true.
discrimination.
That is true.
Thank you.
But
I
that's
agreed
not-
with that
We're not
point.
gonna get to a world where we have no discrimination, and that crosses political lines. That's Republican, Democrat, and independent.
And that's why I'm glad the Republicans and Democrats collaborated responsibly and crafted this nice, well-written resolution.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, sir, come on up.
My name is Ron Lesher. As an introduction, I want you to know that I've spent more than 6 decades studying and collecting tax stamps. Maryland has a tax on cigarettes, and there are stamps on every pack of cigarettes that are sold in the state of Maryland. That helps to make sure that the tax has been paid to the state if it's sold here. My question is there any consideration for stamps on cannabis that is going to be sold here in the county? 21, at least 21 states have cannabis tax stamps. I collect those. Canada has cannabis tax stamps for each province, territory, and for the country itself. A lot of stamp collectors like to purchase those, by the way, and might even be able to purchase enough to pay for the production of those stamps. And it might make it easier for the sheriff's office to determine whether or not the tax has been paid on cannabis. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Yes, sir.
My name is Phil Riggin. I live at 29736 Sullivan Drive here in Easton. I'm going to just mention a couple of things. First of all, I know that we are now at the 1 hour and 55 minute point of this meeting, and I know that I may be the only reason why you're not getting to dinner now. So I know what my mission is, and it's to move along and say things quickly. A couple of things. First of all, I had the opportunity to talk with the golf pro here at Hogs Neck about a week ago. I understand, Ms. Milky, you are the liaison from the council to the golf course. Yes. He mentioned that. I just want to say that I'm very impressed with what I've heard, what you're committing to the golf course, what you're investing in the golf course, and that you recognize it as being something that the county can be proud of. And I recently learned, I think he said that he operated at $1 million profit last year. I don't know how you evaluate profit but I can assure you that there are several other county golf courses here on the Eastern Shore that do not operate nearly to that point. So I think that's a very good thing. And I was glad to see the golf pro here again tonight. The second thing I want to mention is I appreciate your collective demonstration of stamina tonight to go through with introducing 42 pieces of legislation and all the other stuff that you did. Congratulations, you're still smiling. Madam Secretary, you did a yeoman's job of presenting all that stuff to the council, and congratulations to you. Finally, I want to talk about one other thing. What you did tonight and what you have done repeatedly during the time that I've been attending these meetings. I think you've been doing an extraordinary job of protecting our environment here along the shores of the Chesapeake Bay. I mean, just what you're doing with your water and sewer stuff, pulling people out of, I assume, well and septic systems, I don't know. But I do know what they're capable of doing. So I want to congratulate you. It's not exciting business to go through the whole thing about, and the people in St. Michael should be really happy with what you're doing for them. I mean, everything I see, 2/3 of what I see is St. Michael's area. In any case, thank you for that. And as a county that boasts 700 miles of shoreline, I think you're doing your fair share on protecting the environment. And the Chesapeake Bay Foundation owes you an attaboy and a gold star.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
Good evening, Council. I'm Tina Grace Jones from Cordova. My pronouns are she and her. I come to you tonight. I actually was originally coming only to tell you Happy Pride Month. I know some of you may not want to hear that, but Happy Pride Month. And also to invite you to come downtown Easton on Saturday to our Pride Festival. I want you to see what 3,000 people who have community look like because they feel safe. However, I saw the resolution on tonight's agenda and knew I also had to come. So I want to read one thing for you from today's Newsweek. U.S. District Judge John Tiger ruled that the president cannot legally withhold funding to programs that promote diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI. That's the court decision as of yesterday. I also want you to know that Gallup organization and other organizations are tracking the impact these kind of actions that are against DEI initiatives or any marginalized community is having a significant impact on the lives of American citizens. It is estimated that in some states the rates of suicide for marginalized communities has risen by 72% since January of this year. Make no mistake, the headline in the paper is going to be that you have rescinded DEI. I want you to think about what that's going to mean for the people that impacts. Because it does not just impact your employees. It impacts me as a transgender woman. And sir, I am not an ideology. I know who I am. I know who I've always been. And you're just wrong. Sorry. I also want you to know that part of what this administration has done, if it passes this big, beautiful bill, is removed 100% of funding for the 988 services specifically for LGBTQ folks. This is discrimination. We are not supposed to be taking actions based on anyone's race, gender, sexual orientation, ethnic background, and the list goes on. Yet, it's happening. And I implore you to think about the decision you've made tonight. And I want you to think about the lives that you've impacted, because you have. And I'm so sorry to see that and hear that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else like to come up? Public comment? Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Fahmi. I am the health officer of Talbot County. Thank you for the opportunity. I would like to second the input of the physician about cannabis effects on kids. The American Academy of Pediatrics have very clearly stated that cannabis for kids does affect their IQ. If you remember, in Austin, Texas, there was a lead toxicity in the water. cannabis is about 3 to 4 times the effect of IQ dropping compared to lead. For a lead level of, the lead level to be regarded as out of the range is 3.5. At a range of 10 to 20, which is like 30 times that level, 7 times that level, it drops it by around 2.6 IQ. The studies are different, but 2.6 to 4.6. I agree with him, it drops at least 8 IQs, marijuana. And we think we are going through the smoking habit when during World War I, everybody has to go to the barrel and pick up the smoke. And now we're finding that this is not a good idea. Definitely not advisable. Forget about the toxicity of cannabis, which is fast heart rate, incoherence. Some in the school get calling 911 for the kids. Not a good thing, not a good thing for the kids in particular. Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, thank you for telling us that information. Thank you. Okay, anybody else like to come up? Okay, we're winding down here. Council comments. Mr. Stepp.
I'm good.
You good?
I'm good,
Mr.
thank you.
Lesher.
I'd like to take a moment to highlight a special event happening this week as part of the Talbot 250 celebration. Talbot Treasures, a community show and tell of history and heritage, is taking place at the Waterfowl Festival building in downtown Easton this Saturday, June 14th. This unique event invites members of the public to share meaningful pieces of Talbot's history, whether it's a family diary, a historic photo, or a one-of-a-kind artifact. Stop by during the public viewing hours on Saturday, June 14th between 10 and 2 p.m. and see the incredible collection of local history on display. Events like this remind us that history doesn't just live in books and museums, but in our very homes, our families, and our memories. Thanks to the Talbot 250 Commission, the Talbot Historical Society, and the Waterfowl Festival for their support of this project. More information on this can be found at www.talbot250.org/Talbot-treasures.
Okay.
I pass.
You good? Okay.
I'm good.
You good?
You're great.
Okay, okay. And I just want to thank staff tonight. We've had a long meeting. You prepped and did a lot of work in the last couple of weeks, especially you, Susan. You did a phenomenal job putting all this together. You and Jess probably pulled your hair out, but you did a good job. So I just want to thank everybody for hanging out and having patience with us tonight. Mr. Lesher?
The County Council's next meeting will be held on Tuesday, June 24th, beginning at 5 o'clock p.m. The Council will be convening an open session at 3:30 p.m. and then adjourning into closed session as listed on the statement for closing that meeting. Therefore, is there a motion to adjourn this meeting and reconvene as noted?
So moved. Okay, we got a motion second. Madam Secretary, call the vote.
Mr. Callahan?
Aye.
Mr. Stepp?
Aye.
Mr. Lesher?
Aye.
Ms. Milky?
Aye.
Ms. Hayes?
Aye.
There we go.